Hey everyone, today is Saturday and we're taking Buck, Brooklyn, and Copper for a walk before Copper goes home. So join us. I thought yesterday would be the last day that I was gonna take him for a walk, but I thought today that we would go for one more walk before his mommy and daddy come home to pick him up. So, and he just got done poo-pooing, and I saw Buck was either peeing or pooing. And I'm sorry about the wind. If it gets really bad, I'll probably just mute it and play music. It's a gorgeous day out. So I gotta tell you guys about my haircut today. So I went to the beauty shop and my normal beautician, her name is Jamie. And when I called to make an appointment, she was full today. So I just said, I'm going to a wedding soon. I need my haircut. Just put me with anybody. So they put me with this Braylon, who looks very, very, very young. So she sat me in the seat and I said, I'd like my hair washed first and then cut. And she said, I'll just spray your head with water and cut your hair, and then afterwards I'll wash your hair and then style it. And I said, I don't style my hair. I just wash and go because my hair is real short. And I said, I don't use any product. And I said, because it makes my head itchy and the cancer and stuff. I didn't say the cancer, but that's what it does to me. And she goes, okay. She said, so how short do you want it? And I said, well, let's see. And she pulled my hair up and she put her hands right against my skull. And I said, I want it more than that. So then she went all the way to the top of my hair. And I said, less than that. I said, can you go right in the middle? So she did. I said, that's good. So she measured it with the comb. And I thought, you need to measure it? And she said about 1.5 inches. And I said, perfect. I said, I am not picky about my hair. I've got so much more to worry about than my hair. It'll grow back. If you make a mistake, it's fine. I said, I'm just looking to have my hair cut good enough to go to the wedding. And she's like, that's good to know. So then she said, what do you do with the back of your hair? And I said, they use clippers, and it's really short on the bottom, and then it just goes up to a longer length. And she goes, do you happen to know what size a clipper guard? And I said, I'm sorry, I don't. And I said, it's too bad Jamie isn't here because Jamie would know. She said, let me check her schedule to see if she's coming in soon. I said, fine, So she checked and she's like, well, she has an appointment at 9, which was my appointment. She said, so she should be coming. So she started. She said, I'm going to use the 6 guard and then go up to a 4. I said, perfect. I said, remember, I don't care. So she used a 6 and she said, is that short enough? And I felt and I'm like, perfect. Brooklyn, what are you doing? Oh, you little shit. You need a bath. Go. Oh, that makes me mad when she does that. So anyways, so I felt my hair and I said, perfect. So then she used a 4 and went up and I said, perfect. So Jamie comes in. She's like, Jamie, can you help me with her? Jamie's like, Summer, I usually use a 2, 4, perfect. So then Jamie and I started talking as she cut my hair and stuff. And Jamie said, I have some bad news. I said, oh no, you're not leaving me. And she said, yeah. I said, why is everybody leaving me? My dentist is retiring. You're leaving me. A couple of years ago, my doctor left Sturgis. I said, yeah, everybody's leaving me. And she said, my husband said that I don't have to work anymore. So I'm just staying at home. I said, I'm so happy for you. I said, you'll have to give me your phone number. We'll have to go for coffee. So she did. And as we were talking, Braylon was cutting my hair, which is perfectly fine. So then it came time for my ears. And she goes, Jamie, I'm scared to do her ears. And I'm thinking, do I have hair growing out of my ears? But she meant the hair around my ears. So Jamie came over and showed her how to do the one ear. She said, now you do the other ear. She said, no, you do the other ear. I need to watch it more. So Jamie did my ears and everything. And so she was done with my haircut. So then she takes me to the bowl to wash my hair. And the past month I've had an ongoing migraine on my left side of my face. And she's sitting there. First of all, she got the water really hot. And I said, can you turn the water down some? I said, it's really hot. She said, oh goodness, the water is bipolar. It's either freezing or it's too hot. And I said, well, you just need to go down a little bit. So she went down and she was, massaging my hair and everything. And then she tried to massage my temples. And I'm like, can you not do that? I said, I've had a migraine this past month. And I said, I don't let anybody touch the left side of my face because that's where my migraine goes, is in that temple. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. So then she finishes washing my hair, and Jamie always takes a towel and kind of sops up the water, puts the towel on my head, and just sends me over to the chair. She didn't sop up my hair. My hair was dripping wet, and she just sent me over to the chair. And she said, you like natural, right? And I said, yeah. She goes, that'll be $31.68. And I'm looking at Jamie, and I said, okay. My hair was dripping water and stuff. So I got my card out, and as she was putting it in and everything, I was taking the towel and I was, sopping up all the water and stuff. But before we started, she was looking at the crown of my head. That's where I have the cancer. And she goes, you have dandruff. I said, no, I have cancer. Oh my God, is it tender? And I said, well, if you rake the comb against it, it will be really tender. But I said, normally no. Come on, Brooklyn. Come on, Stinky. So I left. Where's Copper? Oh, there he is. Come on. So I left with a sopping head. I went over to my mom's house, and I got a towel, and I got my hair all I sopped up the water and everything. My head was still wet, and I combed it, and we went to Walmart. But when she was washing my hair, I said to her, so when did you go to school? And she said, I just graduated at the end of September. And I said, so this is your first job? Yeah. And I said, okay. She was just learning. So I told her, I said, my niece went to beauty school, but she was so scared of cutting people's hair. And she said, oh God, I know, I'm just scared about it all the time too. And I said, don't be scared, I said. It's just hair. It'll grow back. And I said, if people get mad at you, you don't have to have them as a customer anymore. Hair will go back. So that was my experience at the hairdresser today. And I got a little girl that just rolled in shit. So that means she's getting a bath today. She's getting a wet wipe bath, and she's getting a bath. So then we go over to Walmart, and I usually go to Walmart at 8 o'clock in the morning because Walmart's just nuts. We get over there about 10 o'clock, quarter after 10. It is so packed. And people at Walmart, they don't care if they're in your way. They don't care if they're having a conversation right in the middle of the aisle that you need to get down. They don't care if you're walking across the street and they're in a car and they're going. I go to Walmart all the time because it's the cheapest place, but I do not like Walmart. Whew. This is nice right here. Right, Stinky. You're gonna need a bath, baby girl. Baby girl. Why'd you do that? You smell. Come on. Come on, Copper. 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 Come on. Copper. Copper. Come on, Pumpkin. I know you're having a hard time. Last night, he's been sleeping with me. And about midnight, he started coughing and like trying to throw up and stuff on my bed. And he did that for a half an hour. And I finally got him to lay on his side and I was like massaging his chest. I did that to try to get him to stop for 45 minutes. And then he finally fell asleep. And then his ears are so bad. Every time he comes to my house, he has an ear infection. And I used up all of Brooklyn's old ear medication on him this time around. The last couple of days I've been putting hydrocortisone in it because that makes it stop itching. And so I feel so bad for him because where's Buck? There he is. Come on, Copper. Come on. Buck! Brooklyn! Stinky. When I got home, I asked my husband why the dogs had their collars on. And he said he was going to take them out to the farm. But then I called and said I'd bring Taco Bell home. And he was waiting for me. And then he just decided not to go. And I said, did you tell the dogs that you were going out to the farm? He said, yes. I said, you cannot do that because Buck gets so excited when you say the word farm. And then he gets so disappointed when you don't follow through. My husband thinks that dogs don't have feelings, but they do. Come on. Come on. Stinky. Come on. So my niece's little son, he's like 2 years old. On the ship, she sent pictures on the family text, which I'm not a part of. My mom showed me he fell in the pool, in the kiddie pool, and had a humongous gash on his forehead. He had to be taken to medical and get stitches. That poor little kid. Holy buckets. Because, you know, they have to put a shot right in the open wound to deaden it for the stitches. Ugh. Let's pond down there. There's Stinky up there. Alright. Now guys, sit down, babies. Alright everybody, we're going to leave you here. We're going to finish the walk. If anything interesting comes up, I will certainly put it on video. Remember to hug somebody you love and subscribe, like, and comment, and we will see you on the next one. Bye!